Well, hello and welcome to the e-commerce evolution podcast, where we bring you the best of what's new and what's next in e-commerce. I'm your host, Brett Curry, CEO of OMG Commerce. And our mission with this show is to interview the top merchants, the top marketers, and the experts shaping the e-commerce industry. This episode of the e-commerce evolution podcast is brought to you by Zipify and their flagship app, Zipify Pages. Zipify Pages is an e-commerce sales funnel and landing page builder that seamlessly integrates into your Shopify store. Just start with one of a growing list of templates and then customize and go. These templates are created by my friend and 8-figure e-commerce store owner, Ezra Firestone. Each template is built with proven conversion elements, but also features a simple drag and drop editor. So you can truly make these pages your own, so you can customize and tweak and test and create some awesome landing pages and sales funnels. So check out all the details, sign up for the beta at zipify.com. Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the e-commerce evolution podcast. I'm your host, Brett Curry. Really excited about the topic today. Today is the first in what I hope is going to be an ongoing series called How I Did It, Real Merchant Stories. And before I introduce the merchant that I'm interviewing today, and we're going to talk about his success story and how their company has grown, I want to give a quick plug to an upcoming event that I think everybody in the e-commerce industry has to attend at least once, and that's IRCE, or Internet Retailer Conference and Expo. It's in Chicago. It's the largest e-commerce gathering in the world, and it's coming up June 6th through the 9th, although there is a pre-day and a post-day, so the main days of the event are the 7th and 8th. I'm speaking on the first day, talking about busting through paid search silos for better AdWords results. We've got an awesome co-presenter, merchant Nico from Tech Armor, longtime client of ours. So love to have you join that presentation, but also come by and see the OMG Commerce booth and check out all that IRCE has to offer. And so with that, the topic today, I'm interviewing longtime client, good friend of mine, Chris Lynch. He's the co-founder of Everyday California. And you get to hear the story of how basically he and his partner started as two guys with a couple of kayaks doing tours in La Jolla, which is near San Diego, California, and how they grew that into a lifestyle brand. Now they've got a global licensing deal with their apparel. They're selling apparel online. They're booking adventures online. They did a 10x growth this year over last year in apparel sales, really growing it. And they've really formed this amazing brand. And so we get into a lot of things. We talk about, one, how to build a lifestyle brand. We talk about business expansion and when to know when you've gone down the wrong path and how to correct course. We talk about some different traffic sources. We get into Facebook a little bit. So lots of good stuff. Please enjoy my interview with Chris Lynch of Everyday California. My guest today is Chris Lynch with Everyday California, one of the coolest brands that I know personally. And Chris is just a pretty cool guy himself. So really excited to welcome to the show, Chris Lynch. Chris, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Stoked to be here.
Yeah.
Really excited. Thanks for the kind words.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking time to be here, and excited to talk Everyday California. You know, I love the brand. I love the city you're in, San Diego. I love what you guys do. And so if you would, for, you know, the few people that maybe don't know about Everyday Cali, tell a little bit of the story. Like, how'd you get into this? What is Everyday California? Kind of tell us that Genesis story.
Yeah, so Everyday California is an ocean adventure and lifestyle brand. Myself and my business partner, Michael Sommer, started back in 2010 as a small tour operator. We actually were doing kayak tours. We purchased a permit to operate in La Jolla, California, and run guided kayak tours. And as we grew, we knew that we wanted to build a brand and build a lifestyle around what we were doing, because we were seeing thousands of people and taking them out on the ocean, and whether it was kayaking or paddleboarding or surfing or snorkeling, we had this really engaged audience, and we really wanted to share them, you know, our love of the ocean and our love of California. And so we started creating products. We really started in probably 2012. We made a t-shirt and a hat and tank top, and kind of just started from there. Really just bootstrapped it, kind of one product at a time.
I love it. And we'll get in, obviously we'll focus on the products and the brand and how all that's going, which it's going very, very well. But just a quick note for those listening, I have done the kayak tour. I guess it was, a year and a half ago, something like that. Came out. You guys were gracious enough to take me on the tour. Got to see a sea lion. Got to kind of go up to some of the caves there. They're in La Jolla. It was phenomenal. My wife is still jealous. I was there on a work trip, so I was flying solo. She's still jealous she didn't get to go. But it was amazing. So I highly recommend it. But talk about, so how did that idea come up? Was it like you and your business partner having a beer and talking, hey, we could sell more stuff? Or how did that idea come about to sell the products?
It was really from the beginning. When Mike called me and said, hey, do you want to purchase this kayak tour permit with me? Both of us had worked at this small company when we were in college. And I said, yeah, but I don't want to just do kayak tours. If we're going to do this, let's build a brand around it. Let's start an actual lifestyle company, a lifestyle brand. And, a lot of people say that. A lot of people say, I own a lifestyle brand or I own a clothing company. Well, our difference being is we had a built-in customer base. And so we knew from the beginning that we could grow this thing into more than just a tour company.
Yeah, what a unique way of, there are other companies that kind of leverage a brick and mortar store to launch an online store, but you guys really leverage this cool experience, service-based business and use that to launch a products company and then eventually e-commerce. So really cool. Talk about the first products, because it's always fascinating to me to kind of watch the evolution of a product. And first of all, I love your products. I own several of your tees. I think they instantly make me look cooler, or at least that's what I believe in my head. But what were the first products and what were they like?
The first products were really basic. I mean, we're talking, we went to just a regular old blank manufacturer, like the American Apparel was what we were using in our first year. Really cheap trucker hats, and we were just screen printing our logo. And it wasn't even the logo that we have now. I mean, we started because the name of the company that we purchased was on the permit. We could not change our name. We couldn't really change our logo. We had to keep the same one until our permits were renewed. So actually our first product said OEX on them, which stood for Ocean Enterprise Express.
Doesn't have the same ring to it as Everyday California.
No. So that was really a blessing. It was a blessing disguised as a curse, because we didn't want that name. I specifically wanted to go away from it right away. We threw out all these different names, but the good news was we couldn't change it. So we had 2 years of learning how to manufacture, learning product design, and really learning branding and coming up with what our eventual name and logo would be. I mean, really, if somebody just held you and said, learn for 2 years and figure out exactly what you want and how you want to market and who you want to sell to and what your logo. I mean, it took 2 years. And then we finally renewed our permits and we launched our permits under the name Everyday California and created our entire brand around Brutus, which is our bear holding a surfboard.
Yeah, I love the logo, Brutus holding the surfboard. You got to check it out online. It's phenomenal. And really, I love that perspective that the 2 years was really you guys learning and I'm sure making mistakes and just perfecting the craft. Any tidbits, any lessons that stand out from those 2 years that you can pass on?
Yeah, patience. Really.
Yeah.
Patience being the number one thing. That patience is really, I think, what allowed us success. And we still kind of operate in that. We're trying to be really patient, especially with building a apparel company. So much of it has to do with numbers. A lot of people who start brands that start to have some success realize that the major issue in the apparel industry is inventory and financing and sell-through rates, and everything is based on numbers. As much as I love to design a cool t-shirt and a cool hat or jacket or board shorts or whatever it is that we're working on, really it all comes down to numbers, and it comes down to margin and how much we can manufacture and for what margin we can get and lead times, and just all that goes into the back end of building a brand.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And I think a lot of people want to rush the process. They say, hey, I'm dreaming of a lifestyle brand as well. And so I want to go from 0 to 2 million, in 5 months or something. And while those kind of numbers are certainly possible with certain businesses, maybe, but doing what you guys have done in terms of crafting the design and getting stuff that people really like and that shows well, and really your brand is exploding in terms of popularity, which I know we'll get into. It takes time, and then managing inventory and managing shipping and all that, and so. So when did you guys first think about selling through e-commerce? Was that also in the beginning that you had that vision, or did that come later?
We always knew we wanted to sell online, but that wasn't a big priority for us. I mean, starting out, the 95% of our business was tour related. So our first goal was to grow the tour business. I mean, much better margins. No inventory. So our first site was primarily just for people to be able to call and book tours. And then from there, we got to the building out an online booking system so we could capture payments online, really working on getting that business up and running. Now we see about 50,000 people a year, and we've really dialed in all of our systems and all of our online store and everything that we can do from an adventure side. Selling apparel online started in 2013 and was really a slow trickle. We did spend a ton of money. We went out, and this is something I would definitely recommend entrepreneurs not to do. We went out and we spent about $100,000 building a Magento-based site that could do both apparel and tours. So we had to build the thing custom because nobody really does what we do. Nobody is a ocean adventure company that also sells apparel. They're kind of one or the other. And so there was no out-of-box solution for us. So we went and we had this whole thing designed. So on our Magento site, you could buy apparel or you could book tours. And we had to run the entire thing ourselves. So our IT costs were astronomical. If I wanted to change a picture, it was hard enough to get into the back end of Magento and code it to change a picture. But that was really our first kind of go with selling our apparel online. And even at that point, we were doing very, very little online. The majority of the apparel we were selling was in our store and in little farmers markets or one or two small wholesale accounts that we had and we could manage.
Yeah, which makes sense because when I was there doing the tour, of course I had to buy some swag, while I was there. But you guys have a great showroom, which we can talk about. But I saw a lot of people as they were waiting for their tour, or as they finished their tour, they were buying some merch, and so I know that's been. It makes sense. It was a natural kind of people want to commemorate their experience, they want to remember it, and have something to show for what they did, and so it's a great fit. And so was it the talk about the site and the platform? Was it kind of the pain of that initial site then that led you to Shopify, or why did you choose Shopify?
Exactly. It was definitely just the pain of having to do it and realizing that if we're going to operate these two businesses under one name, we're just going to have to separate out the website. And so having a good amount of friends who are in e-commerce and running lifestyle brands down here like Blenders, Eyewear, and Pure Vida, we were all on the same street kind of growing up together, and knowing that they were having so much success with Shopify, we just decided that it was time to split. We split the site, launched with Shopify. I believe it was in 2014 that we launched our apparel Shopify site, and then had a link on there to direct to our Magento site, which we kind of bare bones and just left the adventure portion on the Magento site.
Right. Gotcha. And that's so fascinating to me. And I was introduced to you guys through our mutual friend, Austin Bronner. And how much did you guys collaborate? Because I love the story. I mean, if you look at Blenders Eyewear, phenomenal lifestyle brand based out of San Diego, Pure Vida, Bracelets, another great story from right there where you're based. And then you guys, did you guys collaborate a decent amount, like in the beginning years? Were you swapping ideas and sharing war stories and stuff? Absolutely.
One of the founders of Blenders ended up becoming my roommate. We all were good friends going through the same thing, and we really tried to help each other and share as much information as we could as we would all continue to grow. We were all in a little bit different market. We're more of a lifestyle apparel brand. Blenders is a sunglass company. Pure Vida is a women's jewelry company and bracelet company. So we weren't exactly direct competing with each other, and we were all friends, and we were able to kind of help each other out. And as we all kind of we were all in different directions, but we're really working on the same platform and working with email marketing and working with Facebook advertising and working with Instagram and working in the same channels. So we were able to kind of help each other out and definitely share war stories. And even to the point where later on this evening, I have a dinner with all of those guys, and we call it the meeting of the minds. And we're
awesome.
Sitting around and we have dinner, and we talk about what's going on and what's working and what's not working, and share ideas and what's going well, and also talk about, the ups and downs and the pitfalls of being an entrepreneur.
So cool. So cool. And I think that just underscores the importance of being around other entrepreneurs who are doing something similar to what you're doing, not necessarily the same vertical or category, but that are kind of going through the same struggles and the same challenges and the same opportunities. I think it's hard, and as an entrepreneur, sometimes we can be a bit of an island, and man, it's so valuable to have those connections. So not everybody is blessed like you, where your buddies are launching $1 million online stores. But I think if you can find a mastermind or find a group, search one out. And I'm not pitching one; I don't have one, but I think that's super, super important.
Yeah, I think that when I started, they weren't my friends. I didn't even really know who they were, but we became friends as San Diego is a pretty big city, but the entrepreneurial community is fairly small, and it was just a matter of kind of connecting the dots and reaching out and surrounding yourself with those people. And I think you and I have talked that above and beyond that, I've also joined Entrepreneur Organization, which I can highly recommend as well, because it just puts you together with other entrepreneurs who are in different fields, and is been a great organization and a great learning experience for myself.
Yeah, I'm always looking for people that will challenge my thinking. And, I love, I know Larry Page from Google has used this language. There's also a guy that wrote a book, Grant Cardone, I think, but the 10X principle, how do you go from the way you're thinking now to 10Xing something? And so if you can be around people that are going to stretch you and that they're already thinking that way and acting that way, it just helps you level up. So really cool stuff. So talk about this, because I love looking at the entrepreneurial journey and ideas that are either hits or misses or somewhere in between. But, we've been working together for a while now, and we help you with your AdWords and SEO and stuff. But talk about, if you would, talk about the juice bar a little bit and why you decided to do that and how that kind of went, and then any lessons that you kind of learned from that.
Yeah, for sure. So essentially, last year, as we were growing, and like you said, we've been growing pretty quickly, we opened up a new flagship store, about 2,600 square feet, and it was just massive. And we looked at it and we thought, we need more space. We want to open this store, and we want to continue to increase our average order value from our customers. We're already selling them apparel. We're selling things online. How can we do more for our customers, and how can we keep them around a little bit more? And being everyday California and owning a lifestyle brand and really being deep in the California culture and healthy lifestyle, we thought that we would open we opened a large juice bar. We took about 700 square feet of our store, the new store that we were building out, and we went all out. I mean, we hired a chef, we hired a designer, we hired an architect. We designed what I thought was the coolest juice bar in La Jolla. I mean, this thing was on track to win design awards. I mean, it was crazy the amount of work we put into it.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah.
But then, we did it, and we're rocking and rolling on all cylinders, and we're these, kick-ass entrepreneurs who can't do no wrong. And come to find out, you come out with us and you go surfing or paddleboarding or whatever it is you do, you're hungry, and you don't necessarily want a $10 juice or a $10 acai bowl.
Right.
So we quickly realized that it wasn't it really wasn't working for our customer base. We were starting to gain traction with the locals. By no means were we, dead in the water there. It was just a very slow process. Margins were much, much slimmer than we have on the adventure side and on the apparel side. And a lot of time and effort was going into it because at that point, we were essentially running 3 companies. We had the adventure company, we had the apparel company, and then we had the juice company. And we were looking at distribution, talking about expanding. Our juice bar or even our juicer was a massive, massive piece of equipment we made an excellent product, but everything was very, very expensive. And not only are we looking at inventory on the apparel side, we were looking at inventory on the juice side, and that inventory is perishable and it goes quickly. So we kind of sat around. We had these quarterly meetings with our executive team, our C-level guys here, and we lock ourselves into a room for 8 hours, and we all go over everything that's going on, ideas and problems and what's going good and what's going bad. And we had this meeting, and about 5 hours into the meeting, I finally stood up and I said, "Hey guys, we haven't talked about the juice bar once. What are we going to do?"
Wow.
And we ran through all of the numbers, and we were making money. I mean, we were doing a lot, and it could have been a business that would have been successful if that was the only thing we were focusing on. But we were looking at these very slim margins, a lot of time, and the majority of the headaches of the business were coming from this juice bar side. So we made the decision to cut it quickly. There's no reason, we felt like there was no reason to continue something that was a much lower margin for us, that was kind of causing a lot of headaches. That was a really cool product and a really cool space, but all of the other business was growing so quickly that we could use that space right away. We made the decision in December. By December 31st, we closed the doors. By February 15th or so, the entire place had been gutted. We'd sold all the equipment. We had almost doubled our retail space and doubled our fleet for our paddleboarding and surfing and adventure side of the business. And within 2 months of that, we had already doubled revenue on our rental business for surfboards and paddleboards. And the profit margin on that was so high that we were already making more money.
That's awesome. And I think so many good lessons there. You guys did it. Like you made and I saw pictures, and the juice bar looked amazing, and you were making money. I mean, if you had decided to really make that bigger, you could have, but it was, more headache than it was worth. And really, it kind of goes back to, I think, the decision that a lot of entrepreneurs have to look at is, just because we can doesn't mean we should. And would that juice bar have really made everyday California bigger or better, or made people love the brand more, or help you go global or anything like that? It really wouldn't have, And so I think that was the right decision. I also love the fact that once you decided that's what you're going to do, you just did it. Like you gutted that thing, you sold the stuff, and you moved on, which is really cool. So
yeah, I think that was definitely important, that once we made the decision, we just moved forward with it. We agreed on it as a group and said, all right, it's time to do this and move forward. And I think another big lesson, and this is kind of a side note that I learned, the juice bar was actually called Wahole. Wahole is the Native American term for La Jolla. Cool name, love it. We had all kinds of cool vibes in there because it was based on the Native American term. We had built out these cool rock formations. We had this big living wall. But I think a lot of the reason why Everyday California is successful is that it's very simple. It's a very simple concept. It's a very simple name. It's very easy to remember. Wahole was more of an abstract, and we were kind of going through that phase where juice companies especially had all these really cool names, and some of them were hard to pronounce. And
right.
And maybe it would have been better if we just called it Juice Bar,
Yep.
Because the signage, Wahole, it said Wahole Juice Bar, but still it wasn't resonating with people because you had to explain what it was every time, and this is how you pronounce it.
Yep. It wasn't instantly obvious looking at the name how to pronounce it. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas Everyday California is just very simple concept, very simple branding. You go back to some of the very successful companies that have very simple names, like 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I know exactly what that company does.
Yep. Know what they do. You hear it one time, you remember it, or on the juice front, naked juice. I mean, once you hear that one time, you're going to remember it. It's simple, speaks to what's in it, And actually, if you would, and I meant to ask this earlier and I forgot, but the name, so Everyday California, what's the story behind the name? How did you come up with it? Love it, by the way, but how'd that happen?
So since we had 2 years to name the company, we started with a very, very long list, and every employee was able to put a name up on the board, and we were always kicking around ideas. And we settled on the fact, first off, that we wanted California in the name, that California resonates with people from around the world. And if you say California, no matter what part of the world you're in, people know what you're talking about. And it's very aspirational. And it just speaks to people right away. So we decided that California had to be in the name. Now, we couldn't just call the company California. So
right.
Yeah, we started really just throwing out what could it be. I mean, we came down to two names, Something California and Everyday California. And really, to be completely honest with you, when we finally settled on Everyday California, none of us loved it. It was just the best of the bad options that we had come up with.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Have you heard the story of how Nike got their name?
You have to remind me. I just read Phil Knight's new book, and it was awesome. I highly recommend it. It's called Shoot Dog.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the naming was. I remember it was blue. It was Blue something before, correct?
Yeah, Blue Ribbon. So Blue Ribbon was the name of kind of the holding company. When Phil Knight first started, he was importing Onitsuka Tigers, which later became Asics, but he was importing those, and he had to make up a name, and it was Blue Ribbon. But when they were coming up with a name for Nike, which I totally agree, Shoe Dog's one of my favorite. Shoe Dog's one of my favorite books here of recent years. But Phil Knight's idea, he really loved Dimension 6. So when you shared OEX, was it OEX? Was that the name of the company originally?
Yeah.
It made me think of Dimension 6. And so Phil Knight was like, he was set on, he wanted to name it Dimension 6, and everybody told him it was the worst name ever. And so actually a guy on their team had a dream of all the weird things and came up with Nike. And Phil didn't really like Nike, but he had to fax in, because it was a long time, we had to fax in the name by a certain time. And he just went with it because it was the thing he hated the least. So sometimes that happens. So when did it start to grow on you then?
So it really started to pick up steam in about 2014, 2015, when we really kind of came into our own and had gotten much, much better at design, manufacturing of products, our e-commerce, our social media. Everything really started to click as I was able to separate myself from the adventure company. And once I was able to kind of pull myself out of that, because that was such a big money maker for us, and my business partner was really able to just take it and run with it. And our general manager, who's now our director of operations, Brian, and same with our director of sales. And we kind of really started to be able to all specialize in things rather than just trying to keep this company going and make money. We were making money, it was growing, and we were all able to kind of separate and take on what we were specialized in. So once I got to really focusing on the brand aspect, and that's when it really started to take a turn. And this is at the same time where we met a brand management company, and we'd had a lot of really good feedback on our logo, a lot of good feedback on our name. And we took the company into the licensing space, which if you watch Shark Tank, you hear about licensing all the time. And we went through about a year.
Was that something, just curious, was that something you guys all agreed on, or was there a little hesitancy? Were you guys a little nervous about doing that?
There was a lot of hesitancy. There was a year of negotiations, and should we even do this? We're such a young company, we're growing. Why go away from what's working? Why dive into this? Well, the main reason being that, we started fairly young. I mean, I was 24 when we started, And as the brand continued to grow, you start to realize, to make $100,000 in apparel, you need $50,000. And so on and so forth. And those numbers just continue to grow. So financing becomes an issue. Inventory becomes an issue. A lot of big things start to happen. We had landed a deal with Kitson. I don't know if you remember Kitson.
I don't.
West Coast retailer, super cool, really niche, like high priced. It's huge. It was like hugely backed by Paris Hilton, and all the celebrities would shop at Kitson. They had something like 13 stores on the West Coast. We landed an account with them, and next thing we know, the company folds and goes bankrupt and doesn't pay us for anything. And
oh no,
yeah, and we're thinking, man, this can happen. And at the same time, we had friends who had struggled with accounts at PacSun. Major retailers, they have all the power when you're selling at wholesale, when you're selling into their stores. It's very different than e-commerce. And so when we were approached and went into negotiations with Cherokee Global Brands, they own Cherokee, which is in Target. They own Tony Hawk, Liz Lang, Side Out, High Tech, Magnum Boots. They own a lot of really cool brands. When we started speaking with them, really what happened was we landed on a licensing agreement with them where they purchased part of our intellectual property and trademarks, being our logo and name, and they purchased the rights to sell all brick and mortar and wholesale. So we held on to our e-commerce site and the ability to open up any further Everyday California brick and mortar stores and adventure locations.
Nice. I think that was a good move. That was a smart move to keep the e-commerce side. And so let's talk about that a little bit. And I love the fact that you guys are expanding, and I know there's big things on the horizon. And so hopefully one day in the not too distant future, people all over the world will be seeing Everyday California gear. But let's talk about e-commerce and what's really working, because you and I were going over the numbers a little bit ago. Your e-commerce sales are way up over last year, which is super exciting. But what are some of the things, what are some of the channels that are really driving growth for you online?
Yeah, really right now, and we were just speaking about this earlier, our e-commerce is 10x last month compared to the year before, which is awesome. And it's amazing. And being an entrepreneur, you know that kind of growth always creates other problems, but they're good problems.
Yes. Much rather have the problems of growth than the other kind, for sure.
Exactly. But what really works for us on the apparel side is Facebook and Instagram, and really most recently Instagram advertising. It's much harder to grow an apparel company because a lot of people, when you go out and purchase a t-shirt or purchase a pair of jeans or a jacket or whatever it is, if you haven't purchased from that company, you don't necessarily know how that's going to fit or what the fabric feels like. So we've done really well recently with our headwear category because it is more of an accessory. It's a little bit lower of a price point, and it's also one size fits all. So we've been doing a lot of advertising on Instagram based around our headwear. And that's definitely led people to discover the brand and maybe start with ordering one product and getting headwear in, and hopefully getting some compliments from their friends, or hopefully just loving the product themselves, and then turning around and trying out a t-shirt or trying out a hoodie. And really that's been the main driver for e-commerce for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And hats are super cool. It does take care of the fitment issue, pretty easy to ship and all that. Anything that's kind of surprised you, like, wow, that really worked well when you're looking at some of your ad platforms, Instagram and Facebook, any particular ads or targeting or anything? And I'm not asking you to give away all the secret sauce, but anything that just kind of surprised you that it worked so well?
I got this is a funny anecdote for you right now. Our best ad that we're running currently is based around a hat called the Marine Layer hat. Super cool hat. And the image that for some reason resonates with people online is a guy holding out the Marine Layer hat, and blurred out in the background is the Brooklyn Bridge.
Perfect. That's the formula that I would have thought of for sure.
Yeah.
To make that work.
So we are Everyday California, and our best-selling ad has an image of the Brooklyn Bridge in the background, which generates some pretty funny comments on Instagram. But it's working, and it's a really cool shot. Shot by one of our brand ambassadors out in New York.
Yeah, it is a very cool shot. And that just kind of goes back to, I had a podcast several weeks ago with a friend of mine, Mike Rhodes, who's a display guru. And he talks about how so much of the time, and his team is awesome at display. That's what they do. And he said so much of the time, the ad we think will win is not the ad that wins. And so that's why you've got to test. You've got to test and do different things. And who would have thought that the best Everyday California picture would have a background of New York? I mean, that doesn't really make sense, but it kind of does. It kind of does because the Brooklyn Bridge is kind of trendy and hipster and cool, and so it fits the brand. It's just if you were sitting around in a branding meeting with a bunch of branding bigwigs, nobody would have said take that picture.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the beauty of Facebook and Instagram and the ability to test is we threw that image in there with a whole bunch of other images, and it crushed it. It won. So we're going with it, and just because our name is Everyday California, this is something that we had a little bit of pushback in the beginning and still get a little bit, is that how can a brand like Everyday California with the name California in it, how is that going to do outside of the California market? Well, first of all, California is one of the largest markets in the world, so we weren't too worried about that. But secondly, now that we actually have a deal, we launched in 70 flip-flop shops all around North America. Some of our best performing stores are not in California. Florida is doing really well right now. Georgia is doing well. We do very well at the McCarran Airport in Las Vegas. So California in itself and the brand Everyday California, it's really for everybody. And again, it's more of an aspirational lifestyle brand than it is us just trying to sell you. They're just selling to people in California.
Yep. And I think it's a great way to put it. It's aspirational. It means something to most people, and it's something cool. It's something fun. It's outdoor. It's sunshine. It's the beach. It's surfing. And it is aspirational, which is really cool. And so talk about the flip-flops just a little more, if you don't mind, or any other new products. So like with the flip-flops, were you involved in the designs?
Yeah.
There?
Yeah. And just to kind of go back a little bit on what we were talking about before, I do want to say that even though the brand is aspirational and it does, a lot of people can relate to it, what has also been very important is the product. There's a lot of people who can go out there and sell really cheap things that just say Cali on it.
Yeah.
I think that what we've done is different in that, take our t-shirts, for example. All of our t-shirts are garment dyed, meaning that we don't just dye the fabric. We actually have the shirts cut and sewn primarily from 100% organic cotton, or a tri-blend that we really like to use. And then we actually garment dye and hot wash, and we'll do different types of vintage washes or stone washes. So all of our product is really high quality and won't shrink, won't change. And we've spent a lot of time in that development process to, yes, we're selling an aspirational California-based brand, but the product needs to be the same. So that's been really important from a growth standpoint as well. As far as the flip-flops, go ahead.
I was going to say, it is really important that you get that right, both the quality, the price point, and everything. And that's why we launched some Google Shopping for you. It's done okay, but it's one of those things where anything that's kind of query-based, like Google Shopping, and we're huge fans of that channel. But, someone's searching for a California t-shirt. There's a lot of people that do want kind of the run-of-the-mill Cali design that costs $10,
Exactly.
And so that's why I think you've had a lot more success with Facebook and Instagram and targeting the right audience and influencers and things like that. So yeah, totally makes sense. And the way you guys have protected the brand and advanced the brand, all brilliant. So talk about flip-flops.
Yeah, so Flip Flop Shops is a franchise company. Flip Flop Shops was actually purchased by Cherokee, the same company that owns part of our intellectual property, a little over a year ago. And so what we're doing with Flip Flop Shops is part of the licensing model. So Cobian Footwear, or Cobian Sandals, which is based here in Southern California, makes an amazing, amazing product. Some of the most comfortable flip-flops on the market. And leveraging Cherokee and leveraging Flip Flop's relationships, we were able to do a licensing deal with Cobian for them to produce everyday California flip-flops. And then we were put in as a direct distribution into the Flip Flop Shops models. So we just launched a little over a week ago, direct into every single store. So it's been really, really cool to be working with all these really great partners and veterans of the industry in launching a completely new category for us, and a category that works and speaks directly to our brand. I mean, what better thing to sell under the name Everyday California than flip-flops? You know, it's perfect.
Perfect fit. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. But something that, again, we would love to have done, but the manufacturing of footwear and creating a quality product, which is what is really important to us, is very hard to do in the footwear space. You don't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to make flip-flops. So it's great to have those strategic partners and have people who really are veterans in the industry and know what to do, how to do it.
Yep. Totally agree. And we've had some footwear clients, and the manufacturing process there is really tough. And when you're going up against other people that are really well established in the footwear industry, you can't really afford to make have some no pun intended, but missteps, with an inferior product. So excited about the Everyday Cali flip flops. They look awesome.
Thank you.
So good. Any other new products on the horizon? I know you maybe can't tip your hat there much, but any other new products that you've either just released or that are in the works?
In the works, we're working on, and if anybody is in the industry, the apparel industry, they know how far out lead times are. We're working on some really cool board shorts for spring, summer 18 that we're really excited about. And for right now, what we're doing is we're really going back to the basics, kind of the same thing that we did when we decided to cut the juice bar and we decided to focus on adventure. Is we're really cutting everything back, going to the basics and really simplifying everything, and focusing on our core products, making the t-shirts the best they can be, making the hoodies the best they can be, sweatpants, tank tops, everything that we have been doing, but focusing on making them the best they can possibly be before we start jumping into other categories. I just don't think it would be fair to try and sell you a snowboard jacket this year that we just came up with.
It's super smart, and that time and attention and that love you guys are pouring into the product, it shows. And people are always going to wear hoodies, always going to wear t-shirts, and so making the next shirt better, even better than before, next hoodie even better than before, I think is a really smart approach. So very cool. If you had to predict or share maybe a couple of thoughts, where do you see Everyday California in 5 years from now?
5 years from now, our long-term goal is to continue to work with Cherokee global brands on an international standpoint. Currently, we're working on deals in about 5 different countries. I'd really like to see us scale and grow on the international front. That's really important, and we feel like that could be a huge part of our business. I definitely see the e-commerce store becoming a huge part of our business, especially at the growth rate that we're seeing now.
Yeah, are you gonna commit to that 10x per year rate for the next 5 years?
We'll see what we can do. I would love to. We are scaling as safely as we can. I actually had a conversation with our Facebook ad agency and Instagram guys yesterday, and told them to hold the budget. We could continue to spend and continue to increase our spend, and we're seeing an actual profit, but I don't want to mess it up. Essentially, we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So we're going to scale as slowly as we can, as safely as we can, so that this thing lasts and it doesn't, we don't make any mistakes along the way. If somebody orders from us, we want to make sure that the product is correct, that they're getting their product on time, that everything from manufacturing to warehousing and inventorying is done correctly. So slow growth, but yeah, if we can keep the 10X, I mean, I'll do the best I can.
You got to do it the right way. And I commend you for that, because you want that experience to be good. You want people to get the right product. And so showing a little restraint there, which is, I think, hard for entrepreneurs to do, because I can definitely relate to your Facebook guy. You know, when I find an ad that's dialed in, man, I want to, light a fire under that. But it does make sense to hold back a little bit, to show some restraint, to make sure you're growing in a way that's sustainable and healthy. So I commend you for that. I know we've talked about a few of your friends that you mastermind with, but any other e-commerce companies that you pay attention to? I think it's always interesting to say, other e-commerce successful entrepreneurs, who are the people they pay attention to? So who do you watch?
So number one, on the e-commerce standpoint, I love to follow and see what Movement Watches is doing.
Yeah.
They were 0 to 60 million in 4 years, I believe.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all. So I definitely keep an eye on what those guys are doing.
What's interesting about that, I was at an event in San Diego. We didn't get to meet up, which was a bummer, but I was there speaking at an event and met several people, several kind of new entrepreneurs who are launching pretty cool businesses. And both of them mentioned, two people in particular said, we want to be like Movement Watches, only for our category. Yeah. And so, they've kind of become a standard in a way.
And that's a great goal, obviously. And I believe you and I, we had dinner with Jake. Was that last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. And super cool guys, super humble, very smart. And I definitely watch and see what those guys are doing. Pure Vida is also another example of a company that's grown and scaled and done such a good job. But for me, being in the apparel industry, being a lifestyle brand, it's definitely a little bit different. We have much more SKUs. We have a kind of a lot more going on, just because you're talking men's, women's, kids, accessories. For every t-shirt we make, we need to make it in 5 to 6 different sizes, different colors. So it becomes, from an inventory standpoint and from a logistical standpoint, definitely very complicated. So the companies that I follow in the lifestyle industry that are very similar to us are Marine Layer. I don't know if you've seen Marine Layer Apparel. They're based out of San Francisco. They've done amazing things. I watch them because they've also expanded from a brick and mortar standpoint, which is something that we are interested in doing, is specialty brick and mortar. A lot of these big retailers, are going out of business, but we still see there's a huge opportunity in specialty retail. People are not going to just stop shopping in person altogether. Even Amazon is opening up stores now. And Marine Layer has done a really good job of that, as well as Aviator Nation. Aviator Nation is another apparel brand, and they're based out of Southern California. And they've done a similar model to Marine Layer. I believe they're up to 4 or 5 stores now. And they just create a really cool culture, a really cool specialty stores. And it's not just all about shopping. You go into an Aviator Nation and one of them has a big stage where a band can play. And for us, our differentiator is all the action sports that we do. So we're looking at a possibility of expanding into Coronado. We've talked about Orange County. We've talked about Los Angeles and different places where if you show up to an Everyday California, not only are you looking for some of our product, but you can go out and paddleboard. You can rent a surfboard from us. You can maybe grab a kayak, and we can, you can actually experience what we're all about.
Yeah, and you guys have nailed it. I love those examples. I'm not familiar actually with Aviator Nation or Marine Layer, but I'm looking at them right now. Very, very cool sites, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. That brick and mortar is certainly not dead. I think a lot of the department stores and kind of the boring old way of retail is certainly dying, but doing retail the way you guys do it, the way some of these other companies do it, and you being able to combine the brick and mortar with e-commerce, super powerful and really, really exciting. So Chris, this has been phenomenal, man. Super fun. Tons of entrepreneurial lessons, tons of e-commerce lessons. It's just been a blast. And now I'm ready to go to San Diego again. So thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, we'll definitely get you back down here soon.
All right. Very good. So if someone wants to check you guys out, buy some hats or hoodies or shirts, where can they find you? And then should people follow you on social media?
For sure. They can check out everydaycalifornia.com. They can follow us on Instagram at everydaycalifornia. Same with Facebook. Since I'm so involved in the company Instagram and the company social media, I really don't use my personal. But if anybody does want to reach out or they just want to talk, I'm always open to that. And anybody who has questions or like I said, just wants to talk, can email me personally at chris@everydaycalifornia.com.
Awesome, man. Very gracious of you to do that. And I will recommend both your Instagram and Facebook accounts. They're phenomenal. You guys are sharing videos, kayaking videos, and La Jolla videos, and of course apparel as well. They're phenomenal. So Chris, this has been terrific, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. We'll have to do it again.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. Anytime.
Yep, very good. So as always, thanks for tuning in, and please give us some feedback. Let us know what you'd like to hear more of, less of. This is kind of the first in our How I Did It series, going to be featuring some successful e-commerce entrepreneurs. So hopefully you're enjoying that as well. Leave us a review in iTunes. And with that, until next time, thanks for listening.